Thank you very much. So firstly, myself, I'm Sampath Rodrigo. I'm a lecturer in University of Wales, Trinity St. David from UK. And I would like to quickly thank to Dr. Datta, CBER, and the Medga College for organizing this wonderful event. This is the third time I'm presenting my paper. So right, I don't want to waste the time anymore. I know we have to fight with the time. Right, so my title, yes, as you can see on the screen, it's a mediating role of green practices and the carbon emission reduction in the entrepreneurial energy efficiency orientation and empirical research evidence from Ghana. So this is my research topic. Right, first thing first, I would like to explain the background of the research. So, this is the very popular terms these days, the climate change, sustainability, carbon footprint reductions. So, this is the researchers, the governments are doing their initiatives to reduce these carbon footprints. But, all the limelight goes to the large enterprises. But they are not focusing on MSMEs, micro, small, and the medium enterprises, unfortunately. So we can see this is the kind of elephant in the room kind of situation. We are not focusing on the MSMEs. We are mainly focusing only on the big companies like the Unilevers, the British Petroleum, those kind of companies, how they are working on the carbon footprint reductions. Unfortunately, they are not focusing on these small businesses. So in my research, what I'm going to do, I'm going to focus on the small businesses and how they can reduce the carbon footprint and how can they contribute for the climate change. So those are the things we are going to discuss. I have some statistics, but I don't want to explain them with the limited time. So but in general, you can see in this graph, compared to the large scale companies, the MSMEs are unfortunately not that much making any initiatives to reduce their carbon emissions. So there's something to research, and that is the magnitude of the issue. Actually, they are not making any initiatives, unfortunately, to reduce the carbon emission. So you might be thinking why I selected the Ghanaian context. The Ghana is the developing country, but when compared to UK, US, and the developed countries, they have made some initiatives, some motivations for the MSMEs to reduce the carbon footprint. For example, I'm from UK, so I know that the UK government having a different initiatives to encourage, motivate the MSMEs. For example, they are giving some grants to install the solar panels, some kind of things. So, but when it comes to the developing countries, I'm actually also from the Sri Lanka, a developing country. I know that in my Sri Lanka, what happens? They are not that much government support, unfortunately, for the MSMEs to reduce the carbon footprint. So that is why we selected this developing country, Ghana. Yes, this research is focusing, these are the 17 objectives, UN SDGs objectives. In my research, I'm focusing on the climate change. So this is what we are focusing in here. We are focusing on how does this research kind of make an impactful research for the economy. We know that MSMEs, even though we are not focusing on the MSMEs, they are the backbone of the economies, SMEs. They are contributing for the economy, undoubtedly. But the lack of research concern, unfortunately, goes for the SMEs. So that's why we are focusing in here. Right. In my research, yes, there are 16 regions in Ghana, and the 92 of the businesses are registered as MSMEs. Now you can see the importance of this research. 92% of businesses are SMEs, not the large scale companies. So this is kind of interesting statistics. And the Ghana emitted 54 megatons CO2 equivalent to 2024. So you can see that how much they are contributing. They're emitting the CO2, carbon dioxide. So it's something important to research. So this is my research aim, to enhance the understanding of the climate change actions of MSMEs, uncovering the mediators. I will explain these terms in a bit. And this is my objectives, to examine the direct and the indirect relationship between energy efficiency and the carbon emission reduction, how these are related to each other. So this is, of course, the quantitative research, is pure quantitative research. And I selected some of the mediators because what I thought that we cannot directly relate to, we cannot find the relationship directly to the energy efficiency and the carbon reduction. We need to find some of the mediators. Then we can find the indirect effects. It means the mediation. So this is my aim and the objectives. Yes, we had to do a lot of literature reviews and to identify, especially for these, the variables, because my research involves independent variables, that is the energy efficiency orientation. The dependent variable is carbon footprint reduction. And my research, interestingly, I have identified 4 mediating variables, mediators. So those are the ones who those are linking the independent and the dependent variables. So that's how I structured and conceptualized my research. Green planning, green innovation, green networking, and the barriers identification. So those are the mediators I identified in my research, right? And then this is how I operationalize the entire work. As I mentioned before, this is, of course, the quantitative research, purely quantitative. You can see 6 variables are here. This is the independent variable, entrepreneurial energy efficiency, and these 4 are the mediators. The green planning, you can see the working definition I created for this. The readiness, for example, readiness of MSMs to plan the eco-friendly initiatives. So those are the work, the mediators from 2nd to 5th. And the last one here is the carbon emission. That is the dependent variable. How the carbon emission works. So that is the dependent variable. So what I did with my networks, my contacts in the Ghana, we distribute the questionnaires among 224 MSMEs in Ghana. It's a primary research, of course, We distribute the questionnaires, and the questionnaires were Likert-based questions, 7 questions. And yes, so we use the Google Forms, and some of them are completed by our data collectors by themselves as well. So it's a kind of blend of the online and in-person questionnaire, the survey. Yes, the software we use, the SPSS EMOS. That is the software we used because it's a quantitative research, and also it involves advanced statistical analysis, structural equation modeling. So we need to go for the SPSS EMOS. So that's why we use that one. And these are the techniques: exploratory fact analysis, the confirmatory fact analysis, composite reliability. So those are the statistical tool and the techniques we use to analyze this, the model. Yes, so the next slide, you can see the model, the conceptual framework we used. In here, yes, this is independent variable in this one, and the yellow box is the dependent variables. As I mentioned before, there are 4 mediators. The first one is GP for green planning, GN mean the green networking, GI, green innovation, and the last but not least is IBE for barriers identification, identifying the barriers for green initiatives. So those are the 4 mediators used in my model. And yes, so these are the hypotheses. I'm not going to explain each of every hypothesis here. But exactly follow the same format for developing the hypothesis. If you see that, you can see exactly the same way of developing the hypothesis. Yeah, so firstly, we check the positive relationship between the independent to the mediator and the mediator to the independent, and then the direct relationship here to there. That's how I develop these ones, the mediations. I'm not going to explain these things. I know it's quite boring tables with full of numbers, but I included some of the factor loadings, and you can see we had to remove 2 questions from the questionnaires. That is question 24 and the question 22. The reason is the lower factor loadings. So we had to eliminate those 2 questions from the questionnaire. And yeah, so you can see the coefficient and the reliability of the questionnaire. It's very important when you're doing, this is when the quantitative research, the reliability, how reliable for your quantitative, your questionnaire you're using. So you use these ones. Yeah, so this is the structural equation model we created at the end. The questions, you can see there are 4 questions for the first independent variable, 4 questions for that one. Likewise, we created this structural equation model using the SPSS MO software. And this is the most important thing. What we found at the end, yes, quite interestingly, we found unfortunately, only one variable is significant. I'm afraid it's not showing. I don't know how can I minimize these things. The last one is only the mediator, which is significant. The all others are green planning, green networking, and the green initiative identifications are not statistically significant. The only mediator is the identification of the green barriers. It means, I will simplify what our finding here is, it means that the SMEs, if the SME wants to reduce their carbon emission, they need to identify what are the barriers they are having. That's the core finding we generated. If they don't know what are the barriers they have, for example, lack of knowledge, especially in the developing countries, we know the SMEs are not that much, they don't have that much knowledge on how to reduce their carbon emission. And also they don't have the technology, lack of government support. Those are the things behind these things. If they know they have these things, of course, they can reduce the barriers, they can reduce their carbon emission end of the day. So this is what, unfortunately, the green networking, green planning, those are not found as the significant factors which reduce the carbon emission. That's what we found. And so yeah, these findings reveal the importance of the entrepreneurial energy efficiency and the identification of green barriers helping SMEs to overcome barriers, the green practices improving the carbon reduction. So that's what we found. So if you want to reduce your GHG, greenhouse gases in the SMEs, so you have to educate them. You have to give the information. What are the technologies? How to install the solar panels? How to use the electric vehicles for their maybe supply chain. Likewise, we have to educate them. Then you can reduce the carbon footprint of from the SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. So that's what we found. Yes, this research has empirical contributions, the theoretical and the practical contributions. This is quite a new model, so let's have a kind of theoretical contribution, of course, because this is quite fresh new model. And the practical implication, yes, will be this kind of impactful research, I believe, because the findings help to governments, decision-making authorities to encourage the SMEs to reduce their carbon footprint. And yeah, so of course, this is an empirical contribution. For example, the research is for the first time analyze the multiple mediators. I used the 4 mediators. I explained them before. So these are the empirical, theoretical, and the practical contributions in my research. In conclusion, I would like to conclude now. Entrepreneurial energy efficiency has gained momentum mainly due to rising energy bills, climate change initiatives across the globe. I'm from UK, as I mentioned before. We know that how the energy bills are going up. When it comes to small businesses, if they know how to reduce their energy, and it will be giving them kind of financial benefits as well. So it's very important. But unfortunately, the majority of SMEs are not practicing carbon footprint reduction initiatives at a satisfactory level. When it comes to the developing countries, the situation is much worse, unfortunately. So we have to make some actions to them. Yeah, thank you. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.